In Destiny 2, there's an activity that is considered one of the most difficult experiences in the game. This activity is the Grandmaster Nightfall, where enemies hit harder, take more damage, and are reinforced by champions who create special obstacles for your team to overcome. That is why I created the LFG Grandmaster Passage of Mercy challenge. If you didn't see last week's version, here's the rundown. I have to clear 7 Grandmaster Nightfalls in a row without losing a single one in order to succeed, the only exception being is that I can forgive one loss for the entire card. Also, I have to only use Fireteam Finder with the tags AutoJoin and No Mic required. And so, in this video, we'll be taking this challenge to the newly revised Exodus Crash Grandmaster Nightfall, where our metal will be tested. Let's go! This time around, for run number 1, I actually thought about my loadout and decided upon the classic Midnight Coup and Still Hunt combo, covering both Overload and Anti-Barrier champs for my team. Also, we're on Hunter this time around, so I threw on a Celestial Golden Gun to round out my boss killing capabilities. And so after finding a team and loading in, we officially started the challenge. Also, as a quick side note before we start, recording and editing these videos takes up a lot of my time and effort, so why not consider subscribing? It's free and it helps us build a community on this channel. Thanks! So, after getting into the run, this goblin retreated to its throne world to die, and we shot off all the turrets, which I'm just gonna say got really boring really fast, and moved on to the first combat section. My teammate proceeded to get shanked, and this is why you don't emote after a single kill. We moved on to the top of the plateau, and I used the Celestial on the brig and moved on to the first combat encounter. This Marauder made me miss my golden gun shot, so I hit him with that no-scope, and after fighting a small village worth of fallen, me and my teammate got overwhelmed and died to adds and to shatter damage, ending run number 1. With such a quick and humiliating defeat, I decided to make some loadout swaps for run number 2, trading my Still Hunt for a recently buffed Ariana's Vow. I figured that the ignition damage could be useful for killing the small adds around barrier chants, but after seeing that it took 2 hints to kill a barrier shield, I quickly regretted my choice. Shooting the turrets got very boring, very fast, like I said, and I did find an exotic which I figured was the game apologizing for this. I killed the brig all by myself like a big boy, and we re-entered the section that wiped us. The second time went so much better than the first, as our team played much safer, only dying once. I learned that healing turrets can block grenades, and after killing a small city's worth of fallen, we messed this guy up and moved on to my least favorite section out of all the strikes. I despise this section as there's so much empty running and the enemies feel like they're not connected at all. Overall, I think it just feels like a harder patrol mission rather than a strike. But regardless of how I felt, we pressed on. Fun fact, Hydras hurt a lot. Also, this Cyclops scared the living crap out of me, but a clip's a clip. And after one stolen Grasp of Avarice mechanic later, we opened the barrier. Now I made that joke thinking that they just include the one mechanic, but they literally ripped this enemy straight from the dungeon. Like, you could have renamed them at least. Anyway, we retired this reused asset and moved on to the boss room. Celestial was the right call, as one shot absolutely cooks this boss. And after one example of how well is outdated, I was left in the scariest GM experience to this date. There was a barrier on my left and an overload on my right, but I went invis from a stylish executioner proc, got my teammate up, transcended, supered the overload, desperately gunned down the barrier, and saved the run from total defeat. We then abilitied the boss down and added the first win onto our passage. For run number 3, I swapped Ariana's for Forbearance because of the arc shields in the boss room and had to rely on my teammate's Outbreak for anti-barrier. I threw on Galley as a support rocket and we loaded in. I watched my teammate lose a 1v1 to the Duskfield Shank, and this is not a good sign and left a really bad feeling in my gut for the rest of the run. We melted the brig and moved on to the first combat encounter. Some pro advice, when your super ends, you should probably come back to cover. This part sucks, so I practiced my axe throw, and the boss fight was intense as my forbearance plan didn't work out as well as I wanted, but with some smart plays we overcame the odds and added our second win to our passage. For run number 4, with a little peer pressure, I conceded to the voices in my head and joined both of my teammates in running Outbreak. I'm so glad I did because this run was amazing. Our weapons create a symphony of destruction, defeating every Dreg, Vandal, and mini-boss in our path. And if the nanites were enough, our abilities made up for it. I only used 3 golden gun shots the entire run, 1 on the brig and 2 on the final boss. I did learn to pay attention to tanks though, but other than that, this run was the smoothest GM I've ever done. So after folding the boss, we added the third win onto our passage. After such an exceptional run, I found a team for number 5, and that's a Warcliffe coil. But that shouldn't be too bad, hopefully. I genuinely thought my other teammate was going to die here. Warcliffe coil, in fact, sucks and hits like a wet noodle. Fun fact, an immune sniper vandal is the strongest enemy in the game. My proof? It killed both of my teammates while I checked on my cat. And if you've been paying attention so far, you have noticed that this hunter has a habit of dying. After wasting a super on literally nothing, I decided that I'll never understand the mind of the average Destiny player. Put this run in perspective, we used 2 supers and 1 res token to kill 2 red bar wyverns, after we got all 3 charges. We somehow got to the boss room, got wiped by the Overload Minotaur, ending run number 5. Of course, the hunter was the first one to leave after this loss, but we steeled ourselves for run number 6. With only 3 wins on our passage and our mercy gone, run number 6 was vital to our success in the challenge, as it was the halfway point in our wins. By winning run number 6, we'll be able to hurdle over the halfway point of the challenge and could look brightly into future runs. So I threw on Sunshot in a succession and found a team. This run actually went very well, with us smoothly completing section after section. This wretch embarrassed me while I was trying to clutch up, so I gave him a fitting end. But we were able to make it to the boss room without much difficulty. But sadly, just like last run, our team got stuck in a corner and we failed the challenge. Now this loss was devastating, and with my motivation crushed, I considered just ending the video after 6 runs. But I decided that we would give it one more shot, as I felt that I could once again overcome impossible odds and finish the challenge. The universe then proceeded to laugh in my face, as in run number 7 my teammate left for what seemed like no good reason, and we died to the boss after just 2-manning the entire strike, and we even got up to the boss's final stand. Then in run number 8, my teammate died in the worst spot, and this is why you should stick with your team in a GM, as we could have easily rezzed him, probably finished the strike. And by the way, we did die to the tank, ending run number 8. After yet another reset, I went into run number 9 with low hopes, but run number 9 actually went very well. I doubled down on my anti-barrier capabilities and threw in the Akilos sniper. This was one of my best decisions, as it made defeating mini-bosses and champions a breeze. My teammates had an interesting approach to the plateau, avoiding most of the skiffs, but I had to shoot a bunch of them turrets anyway, so I don't think it really mattered. We were able to get to the first combat encounter with very few deaths, and Akilos was very good for defeating the bosses, so we were able to get through it easily. I think my teammate died to his own cloud strike at the end, but we went off to the patrol area. In the patrol area, I took the liberty to defeat the orange bar Hydra first, so that we would have to just fight a red one instead. Another pro tip, you can shoot the barrier from afar so that you don't have to run all the way up and waste time. In the boss room, me and the warlock went down to the boss right away, but one bubble later, we got up and entered the next phase of the fight. Over my many runs, I developed a strategy for this part. Nuke the overload first, and then help my team with the barrier champ. My strat worked perfectly, and we're able to finish up the run with a win. Run number 10 was the same team, and in this run I realized why our warlock died so many times last run. While I advocate for aggressive play, the warlock was way too aggressive for a Grandmaster environment. The intro section went really well, but if you're dying in a transition section, then you should probably reconsider how you play. The first combat encounter was a dance of defeating combatants and rezzing our warlock as he overextended constantly, dying repeatedly. He then threatened to take us to orbit when we didn't res him, so I overextended to get him up and luckily didn't die. But let's pause for a second and review something. Instead of playing with us in the hallway, the warlock stayed in the same corner of the room and died multiple times. This is not how you should play in a GM at all. And I got a comment in my last video where it's crazy how people think that they can play a GM how they play in a playlist strike. And in a GM, you can't afford to overextend no matter how aggressive your build may be. In this clip, you can watch my teammate literally jump in the air with no cover and die. People, this is why you're failing your GMs, by wasting reses, by not playing safe. In this environment, you need to play for opportunities to be aggressive and not assume that you'll survive every engagement that you get into, even if you do have a build that will allow you to. So, Even though this happened, we were able to clear this section and move on to the boss room. We entered, the warlock died to an exploder shank, but we were able to clear the boss's first phase with a little difficulty. My plan worked again and we're able to add another win onto our passage. With New Hope, I found a new team for runs 11 and 12, and even though I wanted to say that they went well, they didn't. Starting out, run number 11, both of my teammates died to a trip mine, and from there I knew the run was over. And I was right, as our entire team got clipped by 2 tracer shanks. I didn't even know that they could get collateral kills, but I still had one more loss to go, so we went back in with run number 12. This run went about the same as after completing the objective for the first combat encounter. My team went down and I got to experience Beyond Light stasis again for the first time in a while, causing us to fail run number 12 and the challenge. And so, with another loss on our record, I sadly have to end the video on a disappointing note. I failed to complete the challenge for 2 weeks in a row. Now you may ask, Potato, why do you post a video where you fail the challenge again? And to that I say, I like to keep it real. If I patched together a video where I put together 7 completed runs in a row, then the victory wouldn't feel genuine to me. That's why I'll keep trying week after week until I find the day where I can complete the challenge with my own sweat, blood, and tears, and share it with all of you. And with that, you should subscribe and like the video so that you can rejoin me next week as we take on the next Grandmaster Nightfall with even more resolve than this week. Thank you so much for watching, and peace out.